Welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners like you to maximize your business value and achieve the exit of your dreams, whatever that means to you. With insights gained from over 100 business transactions, we share real-world strategies, lessons, and expert advice to help you build long-term, sustainable value in your business. Each episode is hosted by one of our Mastery certified partners. They're seasoned experts who've helped countless business owners navigate the complexities of growth, scaling, and building value. They bring first-hand experience, actionable insights, and a passion for helping you build a business that thrives. So let's dive in.
This episode is the second of a two-part release. To hear part one, follow the link below. Thank you for listening to the Maximize Business Value podcast.
How do you do the analysis to figure that out with a new company, a new client?
Good question. And it's changed through the years. Back in time, everybody was considered the only way to employ people was W-2, typically,
Yep,
unless you,
yep.
yeah, where you bring somebody in either for a subject matter expert or consultant or even temporary help periodically. But today, there's so many options available to the groups. Fractional and interim have become very, very solid ingredients to put in your mix of the talent you need. The main difference between fractional and interim, let's say an interim CFO, for example, that you need just for a period of time to get through the financial evaluations if you're going to look at an acquisition or a growth stage. You may bring somebody on an interim basis for 6 months, okay, but you want that same person there day in, day out. Okay?
Right.
Fractional, and people that work interim enjoy working full-time interim for a period of time. They don't need to be W-2 because they're not going to be there forever.
Mm-hmm.
But your fractional groups, in comparison, might be a fractional management team. Okay. So let's say, for example, if we're looking for somebody as a new VP of sales, and it could take a little while to find the right player for you. Well, you may want a fractional VP of sales or fractional sales leader to come in that's got experience in your industry. They at least manage your salespeople, keep them going until you find the right long-term player.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
And a lot of those professionals are professional to the point that they have their systems and processes down, and they can bring that to you, even if they're there 2 days a week, a day a week, whatever. They can still bring their expertise to bear. I've seen that.
and those can be at all different levels. They
Yeah.
don't have to be leadership. They can be fractional and interim are intertwined a lot of times.
Mhm.
The main difference is people that do fractional work, which means you're going to have me for 20 hours a month. Okay. Typically like to work with multiple clients, but on a fractional basis.
Right.
And so they typically don't fit the interim model, okay, who only really want one client at a time for a
Right.
long
Yep.
time. So
And
those
not,
are
not in an
only
extended period of time, but maybe a defined period of time,
defined periods.
6 months, and then
Yeah.
I'll help you find my replacement kind of thing.
And it could be like in your case, it could have been a fractional or interim CIO.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
And
just
then,
need to get everybody rolling the right way. So,
well, and they may have the right subject matter expertise that you
yeah,
need in your IT system. Yeah.
definitely so.
Yeah.
So the world's changed. I don't have to tell you this. The world's changed a lot last few years with COVID and everything that happened there. And we had, I sold my company 10 years before that, but we had even when 10 years, in the early 2010s, 2010, 2012, we had several work at home people, right? And we had others that would have loved to work at home, but we had done some assessment and said they're not going to do well working at home. So, for various reasons, sometimes they need a social interaction, sometimes they need somebody popping their head in to their office every once in a while. It just depends. So, how have you guys addressed? There's the work at home, part time in the office, and particularly multiple generations and the way they communicate with each other. Um, how do you guys deal with that?
Well, that was four different questions.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I figured you'd pick the one you wanted to answer out of that mix.
Well, well, first let's start with the first one, which is what COVID did with
Yeah, yeah,
everybody
yeah,
home, which caused a lot of the video
yep.
interaction, which
Stuff like we're doing right now. Yeah,
yeah, which it works well. Um,
works a lot better than it used to. Let me put it that way.
oh yeah, that's true. So in the old style, when everybody was at the office, that was very much a command and control type of mindset.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you could walk down the hall, you could see people, you go to the manufacturing plant, you could see the workers,
yep,
you could go talk to everybody firsthand. With the shift that COVID did, where there's a lot of work at home, um, well, one, it spoiled a lot of people because now they can put their shorts on,
yep.
still look professional, and still get the work done.
Yeah, you can
And
only see me from the neck up, so I'm not going to expose you.
and well, that's good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That could be an HR issue, but we're okay.
But but if you're a manager that manages in a command and control mindset, okay,
Yeah,
you're going to have a tough time managing people that are remote
yep,
because it once they hang up the phone, you don't know if they're
yep.
working or watching a movie. Okay.
Definitely so.
So you have to figure out different ways to measure the productivity of people. Now, in a lot of positions, that's not hard. I mean, salespeople you always measure by revenue or
Yep,
sales. That's easy. Okay. If you're data entry, okay, or an accounting, well, if you're accounting, do you get the financials in order by the 10th of the month?
right.
So
Yep,
you typically don't care if they're working 40 hours a week or 80 hours a week as long as you get your financials, you know. So there are some positions that work that way, not all.
yeah,
Okay. The other thing that I tend to tell people is if you want a job, then you can do a stay-at-home job. If you want a career, you really need to be in the office to
mhm,
have the interaction with your leadership and management teams as well as your coworkers, so you can learn how to deal with people
yeah.
and get on versus just do a job. So that's how I tend to separate it. Um,
Yeah, that's great advice, particularly for that generation that has always had these tools available to work remote. And not that they're not productive and they get a lot done, but they haven't had that social interaction as much. And I've got a great story on that. My son was in the military, so he's used to command and control and all that good stuff. And he's working for a semiconductor company now, and he was relaying that they have a problem. So they have a system that's causing one of their clients some problems, and it's not an immediate problem. It's going to be a problem in the future, but they know it's coming. And some of it is just the design and how everything's working. It's a little bit the design, how it was originally designed, and it's a little bit how the client's using it, right? So it's always, it was designed to do this, but we're having it do this may cause an issue, right? And uh, and we're talking $100 million issue. This is not a minor issue. So I asked him a couple weeks ago, so what's going on this coming week? He says, well, got a presentation coming up, and it's over this issue. And he says, so it's regional VP is going to be in, so he's responsible for about $8 billion worth of the company, and and then so my boss will be there, my boss's boss, my boss's boss's boss, my boss's 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 boss, and the big guy. And I'm the guy giving a presentation, And I said, well, how do you feel about that? And if it were me, I'd say, I haven't had a lot of sleep. Right? So,
right.
and he goes, I look at it as a great opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to show that our team's got a handle on this and that we've done the analysis and kind of know where we are. We know the good news, we know the bad news. I'm here to deliver both. And so I was really proud of him, the way he approached that. And I asked him this past weekend, how'd that go? He says, that went well. He says, everybody seemed to understand what was going on and we've got a game plan. We're working it with the client. And so he felt like things went as good as they could go. So I said, man, but there's a
Yeah,
lot of planning, there's a lot of analysis, a lot goes into making those things happen. But it's a face-to-face deal. Uh,
right.
they weren't delivering this news via video, right? They weren't so all the right people were there in person for this. And even though
And there's a
he does his clients are all over the world, so he's on video all the time. But this is an important piece. So it's but yeah, I think and sharing that what you expressed that if you want a great job, remote's super. If you want to build your career, you need to have some face-to-face time with folks. And
Absolutely. And the younger generations have the toughest time with the face to face because they're so used to texting or
mhm.
email
Yep,
or
yep.
other ways of not actually talking to
Like
somebody in
learning a
person.
new language, in many ways. They're what we
Well, like
call
you
digital
mentioned,
natives. They were born into it, right? We're digital immigrants.
we're I call it old school.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You
We,
need
we
to
push a couple buttons and pray that it works, right?
you need to go talk to somebody, send us in.
You really so super. Well, I've got and you talked about this a little bit earlier, but is there still a differentiation out there between like there's temporary, do they still have a such thing as temporary to permanent?
Oh, absolutely.
Where you
Yeah,
start
and that
temporary, but the expectation is if we get the right person, they're going to become permanent.
right. Yeah, and a lot of times we'll design the position in that manner, okay, so that it's got a beginning and a place in the process, whether it's 90 days. That people get in their normal work habits
Yep,
between 60 and 90 days, okay, just as a general rule of
sure.
thumb. And so with that, if it's and it's called temp to hire or interim to hire,
Mhm.
is kind of the language that's used these days. But what you're doing is basically giving the employee as well as the company, a chance to evaluate each other
Yeah, exactly.
before you commit to bring them on to your payroll long term
Yep,
as a W-2 employee. Okay. And with that thought, it does reduce your turnover factors because if it's not a right fit between, let's say I'm going to work for your company, I'm reporting to a supervisor. Okay. If I don't mix chemistry wise with that supervisor,
hmm
I might love the company, but as you and I both know, if you don't get along with your supervisor, it's not the right place to
no,
be.
no,
So it's
yeah,
gives both sides a chance to say, I thought this was going to be the right place, but I don't think it's for me.
yep,
Now, on the company side, at least you know in advance that you didn't have the right person. If you want to end their assignment, you can.
yeah,
Okay. Without it being called termination.
yeah,
If it's the employee side, they don't have to show that I went to work for you and then 2 months into it, I resigned or got
right,
terminated.
right.
So you don't get that 5 jobs in a
Yeah, because
year.
you can actually say I was there on a temporary basis and filled
Yeah,
filled my time and it went well and now I'm on to my next adventure. So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But no harm, no foul.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's important. I mean, we used to do that with interns, obviously. We started out with unpaid interns. We figured out right away we have to do paid internships. And we did a lot of interns, and we actually added a layer that was kind of very old school, back to the trade guilds. But we had a position we would call apprentice.
Yeah.
So we would have
Absolutely.
an intern work, and it would say, okay, you got good work skills, you're smart, you like what we're doing, we like what you're doing. But there's a lot of learning involved in this, and we were willing to invest in them for that. In a technical world, sometimes it's, weeks and weeks and weeks of training over a long period of time, and costly training, out of the office,
Oh, absolutely.
getting certifications, all that kind of stuff. So we would, the apprentice level was a level where we're making an investment in them. They're not being paid at the highest level that maybe even the job description would say, because they're the apprentice level, but they're getting a ton of education that costs us over $100,000 in some cases, by the time we get them fully trained.
Right.
So there was a recognition on both sides. This is what we're doing here, and the expectation is once you're fully trained and you're a billable quantity that we can generate revenue, the company can generate revenue from you, and you can boost your salary significantly. So it was kind of an interim step.
Absolutely. Well, in fact, that reminds me of a saying we picked up that one of our both of us have a good friend Max Toy that one
Yeah.
time I picked up a phrase saying from him. Hiring people is expensive. Hiring the wrong people is more expensive. And starting over is extremely expensive.
Yes. Yep.
What you just described fits that to a T.
Yeah. Definitely so. Yeah, and it's so important, I think, we get tied up in what we need. I mean, if you're the CEO or you're a C-level person, you got a lot of moving parts. And yes, you want to be a people person, but you got a lot of moving parts. And just getting into that, okay, I need to know what I've got at each of these levels, and kind of what the future is going to hold. And man,
Right.
that's the tough part about running a business. It's hard to communicate sometimes to somebody starting a business. That
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that these are the kinds of things you're going to get into that will probably be more challenging than talking to the bank, and more challenging than introducing that new product and some other stuff. I mean, these are tough. That's why I said some people are really good at it. I wasn't the best for sure. So,
Well, we do a
uh,
lot of that coaching to help
yeah, no
the
kidding.
concept
This has
work.
been, we could go on for 3 or 4 hours here, but I know at some point, I think you got to go make some money somewhere. But we call this the Maximize Business Value podcast. And I know you've worked with businesses of all sizes, but as you know, with Mastery Partners, we're targeting what I would call a small to middle market business, the lower middle market. So probably businesses in a revenue range from 5 million up to maybe 50 million, to as high as 100 million in some cases, but usually in that 5 to 50 range. What is the one most important thing that you think business owners, if it's an owner-led business, need to do to build value in their business?
To build the value in a business, especially if they're looking at selling and they want to, I know your group takes them through that process.
Yeah, yeah,
But with that, I think documenting their procedures is
yeah,
a critical piece. Having the right management team so that a company that's, let's say, if you wanted to buy our company, you could legitimately look at it and say, okay, your procedures are good, your cash flow is good, your revenue is good, your financials look good, and you got the right talent in place where if we acquire you, the business keeps running without you.
yeah, yeah. That's so
That's
key.
probably the biggest
Yeah.
piece I would recommend. Because if the business can run without the original founder and owner, or at least in a reasonable period of time transition,
Mhm.
then from a buyer standpoint, they get the value that they expected, and you get the return you're looking for
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
are when you go on to your next venture.
yeah. I can't agree more. I mean, we see that as probably tied with number one as the toughest thing, that owner dependency. Particularly if the owner's the founder. They founded it out of the ground. It's their idea. It's their baby, right? And I've seen very early on in my career, I saw an example of that. I didn't even understand what I was seeing at the time, but we were selling data communications equipment. I worked for a small company. It was a $20 million company up in the Boston area. And we had one particular competitor that we would run into quite often because we called on the same size companies. And we were a very small company, but we had big company clients. We had big banks, insurance companies, airlines. were a big client for us. So millions and millions of dollars of business, but it was interesting because we were head to head with this other competitor, and my boss goes, "Now, who's in this deal against you?" And I said, "Well, it's this company." And he says, "Oh, really?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "Here's how we're going to approach that. Well, let's set up a meeting." And I go in a meeting with him, and they were started talking about Chuck. Have you met Chuck? And I said, "Who the heck is Chuck?" Well, Chuck was the CEO and founder of my competitor.
Okay.
And my boss, who knew this guy personally, but he also goes, "Yeah," he said, "Chuck's a wonderful guy," and he says he's a sharp engineer. They got great products, And he said, "But you know something about Chuck?" He says, he's heads down in this business. In fact, Chuck personally decided which LED lights were going to be on the front of this unit, right? And Chuck decides on what the script is going to say above each light. And Chuck decides how long the power cord is going to be. I mean, and it was like one thing after another. And the prospective client finally goes, "So you're saying Chuck he's everything over there?" And I said, "Yeah." And my boss goes, "Yeah, yeah." He says, "If they didn't have Chuck, I don't know what would happen. Man, they're just, And it was one of those deals. And then the question came, "Well, how are you guys structured?" I said, "Well, we have a founder too. He is now called the chief scientist. He is thinking about things we haven't even dreamed about. But we have a CEO, we have a vice president of finance, we have a vice president of sales, we have all these guys doing all these key roles, right?" He starts naming them off and everything. And we've got, our version of Chuck is he's in the back room designing tomorrow's products, and that's awesome. That's where he belongs, what he didn't say, but we won the deal hands down. I mean, the guy really right away could figure out the difference between the two companies,
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Well, and for an exit strategy,
yeah.
if you don't have the team in place, you're not going to exit.
I don't know what happened to Chuck's. I don't know what happened to Chuck, but I know his company got bought out, and it wasn't a big payday for Chuck, I'm afraid. It was.
Well, and that's the valuation difference.
Yeah. It'll hurt you. It'll hurt you for sure. Well, man, I appreciate it so much. It's been great visiting. So I know our listeners are gonna probably listen to this one twice because you got a lot of good information in there. So.
Well, hopefully it's a value and benefit to
Yeah,
your team and your clientele.
that's our theme, So again, I'm going to reiterate, this is the Maximize Business Value podcast. So this is where we give practical advice to business owners that are serious about building long-term sustainable value in their business. We publish one of these podcasts every week, so make sure you tune in and see. You never know what you're going to get. Someday you're going to get somebody great like Mr. Stevens here, and sometime it might be me by myself, so you never know. But subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any. And with that, I'm Dave Casey. We'll see you next week.
Thank you much.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Maximize Business Value podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas on how you can continue driving value in your business. But remember, it's not just about listening. It's about taking massive action. Visit our website, masterypartners.com, for more resources. Grab a copy of any of the books in the Maximize Business Value series on Amazon or via the links below. And don't hesitate to reach out if you want to know how to apply these concepts to your business. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to relentlessly execute while you maximize business value.